we are live.
Yay!
Hello. Okay, I am Jessica. This is Marky, and we are the Dallas-Fort Worth Outreach Coordinators for the Planetary Society. This is our very first book club discussion, and we had intended to make this open for anybody who wanted to join, but we've had some technical difficulties. We've had to move some things around. So this time it's just going to be me and Marky. I'm hoping you guys will enjoy watching us discuss it. Next month we're going to have an open discussion, so anybody who wants to jump in with us will be able to do so. That's pretty much that. Sorry about that. We had quite a bit of technical difficulties. We're actually an hour and a half later than we wanted to be on that. Generally, first up, we want to talk a bit about what the Planetary Society is doing. Tomorrow is Asteroid Day. Basically, that is just a time for to raise awareness of asteroids, the chances of them hitting Earth and what we could do about it if they did, the impact if they did hit, what we could do about that, how it would impact us. It's just really important to raise awareness about that. So we're actually going to be at Good Records in Dallas tomorrow night. We will have a link to that in the show notes below, so you can find out where to join us there. And there's also going to be an event in Fort Worth, I believe, as well. Let's see. We'll also have links to Asteroid Day, so you can learn more about what that is. Another thing that's really big for the Planetary Society, another big focus, is Juno. It's a spacecraft that right now, it's been on its way to Jupiter for since 2011, and it's about to hit. It's going to be July 4th. It's actually going to be in orbit of Jupiter. And it's basically going to be studying Jupiter, trying to find out more about its origins, where it came from, what it is. And it's going to be sending back tons and tons of images to Earth, which they want everybody to be able to edit and adjust and send in, basically. So they want everybody, the entire public, to get their hands in there and help them process all of the data that's coming in. So that's really cool. So everybody can do that. We'll have a lot more information about that later on, also through our Facebook page as well. All right, I think that's all of my housekeeping notes. Are you ready to start talking about the book?
Yes, I'm still messing with Facebook, so I apologize if I'm a little laggy. I sent out the link so everybody could watch it. I'm making sure I did it right. But yeah, we can talk about the book.
Okay. So our book this month is our very first book. We started off with The Martian from Weir. We picked that to make it kind of an easy way for people to jump in, because most people have read it. If they haven't read it, they've seen the movie or they wanted to read it. So that's why we started with that. So did you like it?
I did like it. I thought it was fun. I was a little going into it. Immediately, I fell in love with Mark Watney. Like his sense of humor is what made this book the best. Like I guess I liked him so much because he's just painfully optimistic, and I consider myself that way. Like I not in probably that kind of situation. I would just be like, well, I'm gonna die. But in general in life, I tried to be that way. So I love the fact that he was so optimistic and fun about the whole thing, even when he thought very, very much so he was going to die in a couple instances. He was still like, you can see him throwing a fit, and then he'd come back and be like, all right, well, calm down, everything's fine. I'll figure it out. It was a blast.
Okay, yeah, I also really liked it a lot. Mostly, again, yeah, the sense of humor. I mean, I love sci-fi. I haven't read a ton of it yet, but this was really great, because a lot of the sci-fi I have read is very dystopian. Like, we've advanced so far that everything's all screwed up, but this was near future enough that it felt attainable, and that even kind of made it more exciting, because like this is fairly near future. It makes it seem like travel to Mars is a possibility, and the research that he put into that made it really seem attainable. But yeah, I really liked it a lot. But yeah, the humor is definitely my favorite part of that. Because we're doing this for the Planetary Society, we should at least talk about the science a little bit. So Weir is not, he admitted there's a section in the back of the book where he talks about how Mark Watney is just way smarter than he is, and he wishes he could be like him, which is funny because he's his creation. But Andy Weir himself, he's a computer programmer, and he studies orbital dynamics for fun. Like in his free time, he just studies orbital dynamics. He actually wrote a computer program to figure out the trajectory that the Ares crew would have to take.
Dude, I wish that was my hobby. Like I like some dorky stuff, but I don't think any of the stuff that I look up for fun is that level of impressive. Like mine's mostly like off the wall weird stuff and like funny cats. Like that's what I look up for fun. Yeah, that's impressive. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, but he did a ton of research to make it all seem very possible. But did the science that was in it, because obviously, I mean, you and I aren't scientists, we're just big fans of science. Did it add to or detract from your enjoyment of the book?
I think it added to it and subtracted at least a little bit. Like the stuff that was way over my head, I kind of skimmed through it. Like when he was talking about the chemistry and the HAB and like why things were messing up because he was exhaling too much of one chemical when throwing off the balance and everything. It was much, because like I understand what he was saying. I understood everything he was saying, but when he was breaking it down, like how somebody with more of a knowledge in chemistry than myself would break it down and talk about it, I was just like, okay, well, when are my feet gonna hit back on the ground? Because I have no idea what you're saying right now. So, but he also did a really good job of realizing, in the fictional universe, he realizes that people who find his log later might not know what he's talking about. So he brings it back around and calling Wattages pirate ninjas instead of what they're really supposed to be called.
I love that. I have a note about pirate ninjas because I loved that so much.
It was so fantastic. And I was just derailing off the conversation for a second. I was a little bummed because we rewatched the movie recently. That wasn't brought up because I was like waiting for it. I was like, is it easy to bring up pirate ninja? And he does it. I'm like, oh, damn it.
I need to rewatch the movie. I haven't done it yet. I meant to do it when I finished the book, and I was just never able to make the time for it. I've seen it. We saw it together for our Planetary Society event last year.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, but it's been since I've seen it, and I meant to rewatch it. Oh, well, I'll have to get to it. Let's see. Well, kind of since we're still on the subject of science, somewhat, we talked about in the forums how about which scientific specialties we'd like to have. I think that kind of where we landed isn't necessarily things that would have made us astronauts, but what was it that you had said would be yours?
I think I had landed on geology and biology because those are the things I like now. Those are the things I geek out about, which would be helpful. I mean, that would be useful for an astronaut, but in the situation that he was in, not really. I guess. No, I might be able to figure out how to plant stuff, but he was a botanist and an engineer. He could fix things and grow food. I would have been like, these rocks are cool. I wouldn't have made it at all. So practically, no, it wouldn't have done me any good. But yeah, geology and biology is what I like, so that's totally what I would have gone with.
So in the forums, I said botany because I like plants, I like gardening, I like doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you lucked out on that one.
Yeah, but then the second one I picked it when I said in the forums was chemistry because I thought it kind of worked well with botany. But honestly, I mean, astronomy is my first science love, and I didn't pick it because I was like, well, that doesn't really make sense. But that wasn't the point of the question, so I'm backing out of that one. So I'm gonna say botany and astronomy, which means I can look at the stars and I can maybe grow a potato, but I doubt it. But, yeah.
Well, if you were a botanist, you'd be able to get through. You wouldn't starve to death, but when things started falling apart, then you'd just be like, ah.
I don't. With the chemistry, I might have been able to figure out how to make the water, but I don't think that without that I could have done so. But whatever. So in the forums, we also had Mark and David that chimed in on that. Mark said that computer programming and medical, both because they were both useful and lucrative. David said engineering because of his fascination with how things work. And then with the second of being something computer related. So that was what the forum said. What about the rest of the Ares crew? Do you think if it was any of them that got left behind, would they have survived?
I mean, probably. They all seemed pretty scrappy, pretty very smart, especially what's her name? The captain, Johansson.
Lewis. Johansson.
Lewis. Johansson was. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so the Captain Lewis, she was, or Commander, whatever the correct term is. She was so on top of everything, and I mean, that was her job. But just personality-wise, she would, when she used the phrase like "let's work the problem," she never flew off the handle. She never got she got emotional about Mark being left behind, but never in a situation where she wasn't thinking clearly. She was always like completely composed and be like, okay, what do we got to do? Let's execute it. Let's do this. So I think she'd be fine. And everyone else, I assume so, but they're more, they were all kind of funny and more, you didn't see that serious side of them as much as you saw with her.
Well, yeah, but would you say that Mark Watney is serious, though? Because I think his sense of humor kept him from going insane.
Yeah, no, that's 100% true. So, yeah, I guess, yeah, I mean, everybody seemed pretty on the ball, but I also don't super remember what everybody's specialty was. Because I know that Lewis was a geologist,
yeah, Lewis was a geologist. Johansson was the computer programmer. Beck was the doctor. Vogel was the chemist.
So
yeah, I think I'm missing somebody, but that's and Martinez was the pilot, but
right.
And they all had two, but I don't remember what everybody else's other thing was because I'm awful.
I'm sure they brought it up, but I mean, there's so much that happened in that book that remembering that, I mean, oh my gosh. So
yeah, fair enough. All right, what else do we have here? So one of the points of amusement was the fact that he was going through everybody's personal data sticks for entertainment. He found Johansson's mystery books. He found Lewis's disco and bad 70s TV. I have two places to go on this. One, what would you want to bring with you, like in the way of like I would say on the ways of like music and books and things like that. And then what would be awful to have with you? Like if you were stuck with somebody else's stuff, what would you hate for it to be?
Oh man, that's a good question. What would I want to bring? Probably movies more than music, or some really, really good TV series. Because I like movies, okay, and I've got a couple that I really enjoy, but really good TV series like Breaking Bad and House of Cards, all the Game of Thrones, like I could watch all that stuff again. I've seen Breaking Bad like 3 times. I could restart that again. So probably those, and then a handful of movies. As far as music goes, I don't know. Like I get sick of music more than I get sick of TV shows or movies, because I guess I think I'd prefer like books on tape or like audiobooks rather than music to me, but that's probably weird. But as far as something I would hate, I think the worst thing is if the only thing I could find was country music. Like old school, well, more modern stuff is okay, but like old school, twangy, awful country music, I just would have been like, I guess it'll be silence because I'm not listening to this.
I'm going to agree with you there. Country is the one thing that I can't
do it.
I couldn't do that. I understand that a lot of people love it. I get that.
I know, and I'm like, I don't want to discredit somebody else's love for country music. My husband likes a little bit of it, so I'm like, I get it. There are some good stuff, but it's just, oh man, I couldn't. Not as like my only source of entertainment. I'd go batty.
Yeah, I would just definitely want, like, if I could just import my entire Kindle. Everything that's on it, that I would probably actually be pretty set. It'd be nice to maybe have some movies or TV shows, and it probably wouldn't even matter what they are unless it's not. I wouldn't want it to be like bad reality TV or anything like that. But
I was about to say, be careful what you wish for. If I get stuck with like, what's that show where they're 16 and they're throwing a party or something? I think it's called Sweet 16. I'm probably overthinking it, but
sure.
Where it's just a bunch of bratty kids trying to like. Getting these huge, lavish Sweet 16 parties, and they're all ungrateful little snots, and it's the most painful thing to watch. Like
I would have a difficult time with that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we mentioned a little bit about the movie adaptation. I don't know, my thoughts on that is that they did a really awesome job with what they were working with. They had to leave some stuff out because, you couldn't have an 8-hour movie.
Mm-hmm.
But I generally loved the movie adaptation. I thought it was pretty well done. What about you?
Yeah, no, I think they did a great job. They did have to trim a good chunk out of the movie, out of the movie, because so much did happen in the book. Like, one of the main things they never even brought up the storm. Like, he never hit a storm at all. Well, other than the first one, clearly. But the dust storm that blocked out at where his the solar panels weren't charging, and that was a big deal because he wasn't sure if he was going to make it. They cut that out completely. They cut out him rolling the rover over, like crashing it. That never happened. So, like, he makes it safe and sound, no problem. So, and I'm like, I get it, because those, while they're awesome, they're like, well, I mean, how are we going to shoehorn that into? This movie's only 2 hours long, and they still had to put in, like, it happening, how he survived, how they're trying to save him, like, all this other stuff. So I think they kept the most important parts. I think the only thing, like I mentioned earlier, the only thing I wish they would have kept in was him talking about the pirate ninjas, which they didn't bring up because he didn't short out the system like he did in the book. Because remember, he like leans the
he never loses. They never lose communication then?
Yeah, they don't lose communication at all. So he, like, the last part of that last, like, chunk of the book where he's driving to where he needs to go for them to, like, launch him back, or for him to take off, he doesn't lose communication. The storm never hits. He never rolls over the rover. None of that. Like, and then they kept the part where he had to, like, disassemble the other, rocket, essentially, so he can get back up. So they kept all that, which is cool, but he never, like, I was watching him, like, drill the holes in the top, and I was just, like, waiting for it to happen, and it never did. And I was like, oh, okay. Guess this is just not happening in this way.
Yeah. Well, time restraints movies.
Exactly.
All right. So what about the point of view structure? It starts off for the first long while, it's just his entries. So the first time it transitions from, it's no longer his entry. It actually picks up in NASA. Was that jarring for you? How did that affect the reading experience for you?
Like the first time it switched from him over to NASA?
Yeah.
It didn't take me very long to figure out that the point of view had switched over, because I think that, I had the chapter open in front of me so I could read it, but I think it switched over to somebody's point of view, like, very, very clearly right away. So I was like, oh, okay. Like, it wasn't confusing at all. Like,
right.
I think it even stated, like, so-and-so looked at their watch or something. I was like, oh, okay, we switched. So, and I think that was a good idea and very imperative, because otherwise you'd have no idea what's going on Earth. So
I really liked the way they did it. In fact, there was the chapter where he's been talking to NASA, and things are kind of like, it's almost like lighthearted and funny, like the conversations that they're having back and forth. Like, he's saying inappropriate things and they're telling him not to. But then intermittently, there's these little sections where it's in italics, and it's like talking about how, okay, well, the HAB canvas is being very carefully folded and blah, blah, blah in the clean room. Okay, now the HAB canvas is doing this and it's transporting, and this is happening. But, like, it's so lighthearted with Mark and NASA, and then it, like, switches, and it's like every time it switches to the italics, it gets more foreboding. Like, they did these checks, and there's no way anybody could have noticed this one little thing, but blah, blah, blah. Like, it's like this really intense, like, oh my God, he's so screwed. But everything seems okay, and it was incredibly intense. Like, he has no idea all of this stuff is going on, as this other piece of narrative is happening at the exact same time. Like, it even goes through like Johansson, Lewis, and Vogel, like, putting up the HAB, and like how, like, all of the when it explodes, when the airlock explodes, mm-hmm. or rips. Like, all of the things that lead up to that was really intense. That was, like, the most stressful chapter, even though it was, like, one of the most fun as well, because of the banter going on. Really interesting use of point of view there, I thought.
Yeah, no, every time the italics did show up, it was gut-wrenching because you're like just watching all the stuff fall apart or crash or tear, and it's like explaining like these little, like you said, the little tiny things that are happening, and you're like, no. So it was pretty cool. I think the narration of that was really cool, and none of it was jarring, none of it was out of place. It flowed very well.
All right, I am running out of battery, so I've got one more thing I want to mention is Mark Watney as a character. We already talked about how we loved his sense of humor, very awesome. Do you think that there would have been anything like gained or lost by knowing more about Mark on Earth, like more backstory, more information about him?
I mean, I thought it was pretty cool in the movie that it ended with him being a professor and him talking to the new recruits and stuff. That was pretty cool. But I mean, you learn so much about Mark right away just because of how he handles everything that honestly, I mean, me knowing what he did when he was on Earth in his pastime and like his favorite movie, it would have made the movie more or less, or the book more or less exciting just because it's him solving the problems and being Mark Watney in the situations is why you liked him so much, in my opinion anyway.
I agree, mostly because of the way that it was told, because what we know about Mark, we know from his entries, and he's leaving these entries for useful purposes. So it wouldn't have made as much sense, I think. I found some things online about people wanting to have known more. I was like, I don't really know that we needed to know more about him before. This is him now.
Right.
Yeah. Anything else to say about the book before we move on and talk about next month's pick?
Not that I could think of, other than it was really cool, and I wish more books would be able to do science that well. Like it felt like such a good. It was fiction, but it was so rooted in realistic concepts that it was almost like a form of science communication because everybody picked this book up. It wasn't just people who liked science fiction. It wasn't just people who liked space stuff. It was everybody. It was a bestseller forever. Still is. I mean, people. When I went to go pick up a paperback version for Shen, who was going to read it with us, they had a ton of them. Everybody read this book, and I thought that was so cool. And I want there to be more good science books like that out there that are not necessarily just dry, plain science. Put some whimsy in it, but keep it realistic. Keep it, based in real things.
I think that's what we're going to find in our book club.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to find it in our next pick because it's a little less hard science fiction, but it is a very well-liked science fiction. I want to bring up that we had had an original pick that we were going to have for our second, but then we discovered that it was not available on audiobook yet, and since a good chunk of our active users right now only do audiobooks, we wanted to make sure that we had something that everybody could do. So we landed on Ancillary Justice by Anne Leckie. Did you happen to already have that so we could show the cover?
No, I don't have it. I actually saw it at half price like 2 weeks ago when we had already had the other one picked out, and I was like, oh, it's that book, I should pick that up, and I ended up not snagging it. Now I wish I did so I can go ahead and start it, but I'll probably download it on my Kindle either tonight or tomorrow. I
downloaded it on my Kindle, and I thought it was really cool because you could get the Whisper Sync feature. It's only $4 more than the book on its own, and you get the audiobook and the ebook, and it'll like go back and forth, like wherever you end off on one, you get on the other. I just wanted to read a really quick description of the book.
Oh, I can do a screen share and just pull up a picture of it real quick if you want.
Yeah, do that while I bring this. Okay. So, on a remote, icy planet, the soldier known as Breck is drawing closer to completing her quest. Once she was the Justice of Turin, the Colossus starship with an artificial intelligence, linking thousands of soldiers in the service of the empire that conquered the galaxy. Now, an act of treachery has ripped it all away, leaving her with one fragile human body, unanswered questions, and a burning desire for vengeance. We ended up picking this one. It won all of the awards. It won the Hugo, the Nebula, the Arthur C. Clarke, like every award that sci-fi books can win. It won the year that it came out. So that was kind of why we picked it. It's been rated so well. It just seemed like a really good place to go. The length is good. We thought it was a good place to go for the next one. So that's it. And Ancillary Justice from Ann Leckie. So
and I'll talk real quick so people can see the picture, because if I'm not talking, it doesn't show it. So this is what it looks like, in case you guys need to see it. It's pretty cool. I'm excited because spaceships, and it looks like they might fight, and that's cool. So,
we're not judging books by their cover at all.
No, who does that? I don't do that. Never.
Awesome. All right. Well, if you do happen to watch this today or sometime tomorrow, we are going to be at Good Records in Dallas with special guest DJ Iwi. It's going to be DJing out there, playing some music while we're talking to people about space. So it's going to be an awesome, good time. We'll talk more about The Martian and maybe even next month's book pick as well, if you're interested in that. Otherwise, we will have links again in the description. You will be able to find us on Goodreads.com. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter at Planetary DFW.
We made Instagram today too, so we have that as well.
There you go. But yeah, I think that's all for this month, and we will do this again with hopefully more people with not bad technology next month.
Yeah, this was a perfect storm of things. Your laptop cord apparently doesn't work anymore, so your laptop's dying. We couldn't get the Google Hangouts to broadcast correctly. We couldn't get the chat to work. It was a mess. So now that we've had this fantastic stumbling start, next month we'll have hopefully more people joining us, and the broadcast will go a lot smoother. So we're looking forward to it. It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah. And until then, we'll see you later.
Bye.